Welcome back to another episode of The Bottom Line, sponsored by Trifecta Nutrition. Big news coming out of CrossFit. Something that we never really expected was actually going to happen is that Greg Glassman has now sold the company of CrossFit to Eric Roza and probably some other investors that have come in. And that's breaking news just happening this morning in CrossFit. Nikki, Tommy, I'd love to get you guys' first reactions to the news, what it means for the CrossFit community, and whether this is going to be an action that's going to sort of bring the community that's been fractured back together. Tommy, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are first.
Well, first off, he may not have other investors given the fact that he sold his first company, Datalogics, to Oracle for $1.2 billion. That is another rung of money from the tech world that I don't think anyone in the CrossFit space quite has access to. So it's possible that he said, you know what, put it on my tab. But beyond that, I'd heard some murmurings that maybe there were offers being fielded from various entities in the community about what could be sold, but there wasn't really clear who exactly was at the table. We heard the offer from $50 million come out from Greg's ex-wife Lauren. Margot came out and publicized $25 million. I thought personally both of those would have been way too low of an evaluation given everything and what Greg might be looking for. And then now we have someone who is an affiliate owner. He's been in the community for a decade. He's opened multiple affiliates as part of his tech company. He is like as classically trained a businessman from that kind of side of things as you can get. You know, Stanford MBA. For all the Ohio State fans, I'm sorry he went to University of Michigan, so he's wearing the maze. But it looks like, obviously he's got some real business chops, and he spent the last few years as the senior vice president for Oracle Data Cloud before stepping aside for a little bit. And it looks like he's committed to the community. He's got some real business experience, and I really liked what he said in his initial statement. He addressed some of the social justice issues that were present in the community. He maintained his commitment to the affiliates, and more importantly, he opened himself up by publicizing his email to anyone that wants to get in contact with him, because he said he wanted to help rebuild the bridges for anyone that may have been lost along the way. And those are just like three big things right down the list. And I'm like, this is the start you need to get off to. And this is what I think the community is looking for, both in transparency and honesty from someone who's going to be leading the company in the next era.
I think that's really well put. Nikki, you are in advertising. You do operate in this sphere a little bit. Do you think his public statement is putting them off on the right foot here?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Tommy in that sense, because when you take a look at what is important to brands, to consumers who are getting, more wily to everything that's going on every single day, it's really transparency that builds brand loyalty and brand trust. And given everything that we've been through this year, especially with CrossFit HQ, that's something that has been sorely lacking, to the point where people have given up on the brand. And overall, I don't mean the company, I don't mean the system or the structure or how affiliate fees work. I mean the brand as a whole, and losing brand trust and brand loyalty can be an absolute stake in the heart for a company that's trying to continue to expand globally. But as the sort of eternal optimist that I am, I'm really hoping, I'm keeping all of my fingers and toes crossed that this is a step in the right direction when it comes to kind of bringing everyone back under the umbrella, and kind of so we can hug all the CrossFit people and affiliates and coaches and trainers that we know and love that have left. And, I have said in the past that I think people might have left a little bit too quickly in the very beginning, because there were some affiliates that felt like they needed to stick around. They felt like they needed to wait it out and see what happened because they were afraid to fly their own flag. They were afraid to, lose their affiliation. But at the very same time, we absolutely needed those first initial brands and gyms and companies to take a stand and leave and spark this change, because I'm really hoping that it brings us in the right direction. But now I'm optimistic that maybe we get some of those people back under the umbrella and we continue doing this all together again as one big happy family.
Well, certainly, there have been whole host of household name brands that have gone through their own public relations nightmares. And either CEOs have stepped down in those instances, they've sold off their stakes, or they've been removed from the companies entirely, or they've gone through their own crisis management. I've said this in some of the podcasts I've been interviewed in, or talking with other reporters, that look, companies have messed up before. Leaders have messed up before, and they have been able to move forward. It does take time to rebuild trust in the public's eye or in your audience's eye. It does take time to fix what the public or your customers see as systemic issues. But there are a lot of ways to come back from this, and I think that there's still 13,000+ gyms that are saying, what, we're here, we're still staying. We distance ourselves from that statement. And then there's a host of 1,200 to 1,500 gyms there to have a decision to make now and decide, hey, if we want to come back. But either way, I think that the future of CrossFit can be that brand identity can be salvaged. We all come from CrossFit. I didn't come from Global Gym World or something else, and that's not why we came here. We all do CrossFit. Everybody at Morning Chalk Up, everybody that we talk to in the media environment, we're all doing this at a box or at home right now if our box isn't open. You guys have some unique insight here, and I'd love to hear more of that, because Tommy, not only did you work in the building for the better part of a decade, Nikki, you've been on the floor and also as a contractor with CrossFit. How does this decision immediately change the structure of CrossFit as an organization to attack some of the issues that people have brought up, specifically things like communication and leadership?
Well, I think you touched one of the words you said kind of immediately addresses that, and that's structure, right? And publicized structure. So one of the things that I felt like when I was there that separated our group from some other areas of the company, at least like on maybe a public side of things, is that for the games media, specifically with the studio team, we had a very clear kind of like almost not public, but org chart about where people stood and what their roles were and how that fit within the framework of what we were trying to accomplish on the games team from a media standpoint. Whereas other areas of the company, roles and positions and the flow chart of responsibility was a little bit more nebulous. For us, I felt like we had that pretty down pat, and that allowed us to lock down what we had and then be able to expand beyond that in a predictable manner. And now I think someone who has experienced building a company, has gone through acquisitions, has stayed on through an acquisition and helped continue to grow an area of the company that didn't necessarily, exist before with the Oracle Data Cloud. I think he'll be able to put things like an org chart that are basically like standard operating procedure for people to understand, right? And basic things like a PR area, or someone that at least a communications manager that can be that kind of spokesperson. These are very like simple baseline things. And for the most part, I'll be honest, CrossFit didn't need it a lot of the times. They were able to get by without it because of the landscape at the time. But I think now we're starting to see, as you see with most companies that experience massive growth, they go through that next evolution. Sometimes they hit that speed bump called founder syndrome that they go through, and now they're maybe contract a little bit. But now I think they're ready to kind of take that next step, and they have someone in their ranks now who's leading them that has proven on multiple occasions that he can do that.
Right, Nikki.
Yeah. And, as a contractor, I always had a very singular focus. I had one job and I was really only informed by the people directly above me. Lucky for me, in the past, those people directly above me were Tommy and Sean. And they had done a really, really good job imparting all of the information that I needed from the very top, from, the bowels of the company that I did not have access to, nor did I need access to. What changed was last year when, there was really no media structure within HQ itself, and we were all independent contractors, from the broadcasting agency to me on the floor to the guys running the cameras and things like guys and gals running the cameras and things like that. So what I'm hoping for is, now that there is more direct leadership from the top, there'll be an easier way to bring people like myself in to have a little bit more baseline knowledge and a little bit more communication up the chain of command, so that we're not operating in the dark. It will just make everything a little bit more seamless moving forward. And as Tommy mentioned, we didn't didn't necessarily need that in the past. It's not like we couldn't get our jobs done, we couldn't get the broadcast done, but when it was more cohesive, I think the storytelling was better, and I think the audience appreciated that. So I would love to get back to a place like that, and I feel like we could. I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, if you look at what the affiliates have said they wanted most, is that it's that two-way communication channel between HQ and themselves, and someone they can reasonably rely on to help address the issues that they are facing locally, be able to apply it to some extent, pick and choose globally out, to apply it where it's necessary, and be able to have that kind of affiliate community now that they're so big to rely on and pull data from, and be able to kind of make this huge network of information to share and kind of be this beautiful open source platform. So I think having structure internally allows you to actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good news overall for the CrossFit community, for CrossFit as a brand. I think this felt like a necessary step. That even though there were gyms that were remaining, it felt like there was no ability to heal without really great just saying, in that sense, and selling. We need somebody at the top of the helm that's fresh and new. It feels like the right move to me. Time will tell here. This is the bottom line, so I want to come away with a couple of conclusions here. I'd love to tap your guys' thoughts here on what you think one or two things that CrossFit HQ can do immediately on top of what they've already done that will bring this community forward.
I think they need to immediately reach out and send some sort of correspondence to every affiliate that has stated that they were either going to de-affiliate or have already de-affiliated. I think in their correspondence with affiliates, they need to make sure that they welcome back any one of those gyms back with open arms. I think it needs to be an open door as far as bringing them back into the fold, because like you said, I think just about every affiliate outside of a few have stated that they've left the door open to reaffiliation and coming back into that healing process. And I think it starts with extending that olive branch back out to those gyms that tried to force this change, because I think if you're the, and I don't want to speak for Eric, the new CEO or owner, but part of the reason you are the owner and CEO is because of these gyms that were willing to go out on a limb and force that change, like Nikki said. So I think reaching out to them, welcoming them back with open arms, if they decide to take that or not, is a huge step.
Yeah, I also think that in addition to being an open line of communication, there needs to be some sort of action plan in place to address some of the things that we're missing from the very beginning. Like, what is the plan for helping diversify CrossFit? What is the plan for making affiliates understand that they have support from HQ? It has to be more. It doesn't have to be everything right away, don't get me wrong, but it does have to be more than just, hey, we're going to do better.
Right.
There has to be some sort of action plan, at least a couple bullet points as to what exactly we're going to do to spark that change almost immediately.
Absolutely. Well, great discussion, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be following this story very closely. I know there's a lot of questions that we still have about this, so we'll try and we'll stay on top of it. But thanks for joining us this episode of The Bottom Line, and we'll see you again next time.